Welcome to the Scale Model World podcast. I'm David Howell from Tyrell Models, your co-host with
Wayne Green from the World of Wayne. The Scale Model World podcast.
I say welcome to the podcast, everyone. I think we'll sort of kick off this one with, I guess, what we've all been up to this week. I think we like to sort of talk about what sort of our modelling lives sort of look like. For me, it's been a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. I've been getting I get the tumbler up to date. That's pretty much finished now. A few dodgy moments with a wheel, which was sort of backwards, but hey, there you go. But that was doing that, and oddly enough, I've been spending lots of time watching YouTube videos. I'm doing a diorama for Scale Model World in November, and I've been learning about how to paint zombies.
Wow.
Yeah, and what all that involves. Lots of sort of dead skin and bone, that kind of thing, what the techniques are, that kind of thing. But thank God for YouTube, that seems to be where I learn all my sort of techniques. And I've been getting a Star Wars AT-AT ready as well. I mean, I'm doing a small diorama around an AT-AT as well. So I've been doing that. So it's kind of a bit of quite a mixed bag, but I quite like to mix it up. You know, a bit of scale modelling, plastic scale modelling, bit of part working as well when they come in. Otherwise, I end up disappearing under a sea of boxes if I don't sort of keep it up to date as much as possible. Although I have on purpose been, I think I mentioned last time, waiting for all the mods I want for Knight Rider before I actually start.
Yeah.
So I have everything in place now. I think I've got one more thing I want to come. And then that's kind of it. But oddly enough, we're talking about mods, and we'll talk about that in a second. So for you, what's the week been like? What have you been up to?
You'll be surprised at how coincidental some things are. Okay, because I haven't mentioned this to you. Okay, so last week, obviously, we were doing the Alien build from Agora Models, so that's now available. If you're in the UK, that's from Partworks. If you're in the US, it's from Agora Models. And I've been sourcing some material to actually stick magnets to rubber. And because super glue don't cut it. So I found this really good stuff called, I've actually got it in front of me here. It's called a Storm Shore, which is brilliant for putting metal to rubber. So that's what I've been doing now. I've been moving the workshop around because I've got a great big laser engraver cutter coming in. So you'll notice on my videos that the background's changed. And you mentioning the AT-AT, God, how coincidental is that? So what I was planning to do is I can get hold of an old Kenner AT-AT. You remember the old, I've got someone who doesn't want it, and he's happy to give it to me. And I was actually going to start modding it and making it a little bit more, less toy-like and more, changing the lights out, putting some better guns at the front, getting a whole full paint job on it. And I'm wondering how that would look. So I don't know if that's what people on the channel want to look like, but I was going to take some of these old Kenner toys and see what we can do if you put a modelling flare on it.
Well, memory serves, the Kenner's it's substantial. It's quite large.
It is
the Kenner,
big time.
It's not a small model. So that'll be interesting. Yeah, trying to sort of kit bash that. Yeah, that kind of thing. Because that kind of throws back to the early days of modelling. You sort of kind of rolled your models in some spare parts just to give it some texture.
Definitely. But I didn't realize the world of spare parts out there, because anything that's missing from these things, they're normally readily available on the eBay. You haven't got to buy the whole thing. Yeah. They've got the missing parts. I was like, oh wow, okay, let's do this.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, scale modelling itself, and what we're doing with sort of big scale modelling, it's that is quite a focused way of building a model. But there's lots of other stuff out there. Scratch builders do some very interesting stuff. I feel. Yeah. But it's how far do you want to push that? Do you want to sort of amalgamate the two together? Can you take a toy and make that more into a model? Because I've had conversations with my sort of modelling buddies at my local IPMS group. And that conversation comes up a great deal. When does a model suddenly become a toy? And when does a toy become a model? Is it about detail or is it about scale? That's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I think. That's definitely a conversation to have in the future. But it's definitely got to be one of these. If you're playing with it more, it's a toy. If you're looking at it more, it's a model.
I always thought scale modeling was all about the small.
Yeah.
How can we get these things as small as possible? And you kind of get rewarded for building stuff that is minute.
Yeah.
It's tiny.
But on the
But
same
when you
on the
get
same on the same thing, you could actually build a large model, but you're focusing on the small details, the things that you wouldn't normally have
yep,
on there.
yep,
So,
absolutely.
small is definitely the way to go.
I have spoke to people that feel anything sort of bigger than probably 1/8 is a toy. I mean, you can get 1/12 scale, plastic kits.
Yeah.
There's a few that are, there's a Bugatti, I believe, that's out at the moment.
Mhm.
Lots of F1 cars. But is the scale? Does it make it more toy like when it's complete? Whereas most of the car models, for instance, are 1/24th.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting one. I haven't done a 1/12. I may do, but I'm kind of more about taking 1/24s and packing in the detail.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that kind of thing. So I don't know. It's something I think we'll return to when I've had to actually got something to compare it to.
I'm sure there'd be a lot of people commenting on the subject.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I may do the same car in two different, 24th and in 12th,
Yeah.
and just see how the experience felt. Did it feel right, if that's the right word, as
Yeah,
a
definitely.
12th? Or does it feel right as a 24th? It's a weird one.
Uh-huh.
But we'll return to that. I think when I've got something to compare it to.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of one of those. Well, if you haven't tried it, have a go,
No,
and
definitely.
and just see how you feel about the model.
I was gonna say the worst thing that could happen is I'll be left with an AT-AT that I want anyway. So
Well,
it's
that's right. Absolutely, yeah. That's that. I mean, hopefully, you can strip off what you put on if it doesn't look right.
yeah, no,
But
definitely.
it's one of those. It's going to be a massive research job. What
Yeah.
goes where, and can you duplicate the parts? Because the Bandai I put together, it's massively detailed.
Well,
Really
I've
is.
only ever done it once before. If you see that C3PO behind me, that was a toy which I opened
Yeah.
up, repainted, put electrics in it. So it's it can be done, but we'll have to see.
Absolutely, yes, indeed. Now, time for news, everyone. I think there's a few things happening in the world of big scale models from good old Agora. They seem to be quite active this week. I think early in the week, I think last week I tripped over the Optimus video
Yeah, that looked
being
amazing, absolutely
being
amazing.
unboxed. Yeah, I mean, you kind of then get a feel, don't you? You get a feel for the scale. Also, the base. The
Yeah,
base looks pretty substantial
yeah.
as well. Looking at the video, I don't know if you had a good reaction to that. You thought, "Oh, I'm really looking forward to building that," because for me, it's not for me, but you quite fancy that.
Oh, I do big time. I mean, I love that generation of Transformers as well. I do. I am aware Fan Home are releasing their Michael Bay version, but I've seen the Michael
Indeed.
Bay version standing up as well. It's just too busy for me. And when I think of Optimus Prime, I think of the Generation One version, the version that Agora's bringing out. It's
Mm,
that's
yep.
Optimus to me. So it's going to be a real fun build. I can't wait to get Pack 2. That's for sure.
Well, it's horses for courses. I think
Yeah.
with that one. Maybe maybe it is generational. Maybe it's yep. That's basically how old you are will decide which,
Yeah.
which model you build. Yeah, yeah. That's that kind of thing. Which I think has always been the case. The model making is. I think it's certainly generational.
Yeah.
Whatever each generation kind of wants to build, particularly big scale models. It's well, yeah. I guess which one you have a emotional attachment to. If it's the cartoon series or the movies.
Yeah.
It's
No,
it's
definitely.
entirely up to you.
But saying that, I mean, I've been building models that I is before my generation. It's like these 2001 models that I've been building,
Yes,
the Aries
indeed.
1B and stuff. It's like that's before
Yeah,
my
yeah.
time. Why would I be liking that? But you do. I don't know. You go back to these generations and watch shows and stuff like that, and there is even Star Trek, the original Star Trek.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
that came out before I was born. It's like why would I be interested in that? But no, I really am. I love it.
Well, maybe generational thing it is absolutely an element, but maybe it's real about what shows you came across when you were younger, when your formative years. Whatever
Yeah.
you were watching when you were 12. Frankly,
Definitely.
that's kind
Yep,
of what it is.
that's it. You've put
So
the nail on the head there.
yeah, so whatever you're looking at 12, that's going to be the stuff. And for me, it was a real mix because I was looking at this the other day, oddly enough.
Uh-huh.
Again, another coincidence. I was looking at stuff that was sort of not out, but just repeated, and it was a ton of stuff. It was everything, all
Wow.
the Irwin Allen stuff,
Yeah.
Voices of the Bottom of the Sea. I absolutely loved. This kind of stuff. Land of the Giants. I loved all of that.
Yeah.
A show called The Invaders, which was
I
which
remember
was
that.
uh, um, which was a great deal. That kind of thing. And these shows did spawn a fair few model kits. But some of them are turning into sort of collector's items, frankly.
They're vintage now, I think, David.
Well, it's one of those that really that's going to cost me quite a lot of money to get one of those. And would I build it, or is that my pension? I don't know. It's one of those, but there's a ton of that stuff, which is really interesting. I think. Now, actually, talking of say Optimus Prime from Agora, they've been quite busy, haven't they?
They have.
I think I got an email from them recently. The Corvette Stingray is here. Wow, that looks amazing with its sort of bare metal finish. Looks absolutely stunning.
Yep, I've done the pack one of that already on the channel, so that's looking really good. But they have got another release coming now. It's either this week or next week, and I have been teasing it on my on my social media. But believe me, I'm so cryptic, no one's going to get it.
Well, we will wait and see how that turns out. If anyone, we knew what that was, but we were going to tell you. But there you go. And of course, the big, I guess, the big news from Agora is they have given us some details about the first James Bonds.
Yes, definitely.
DB5 and the Lotus, which oddly enough are the two that I want to build.
Yes,
of
definitely.
all of the cars,
definitely.
Those are the two that I would absolutely pick to build. So whether they're going to come out simultaneously or in sequence, I don't know. So I may be building both of those at the same time. But the DB5 in particular, I was very keen on because I thought when the original Eagle Moss sort of disappeared, I wondered if they take it off the market. General Craig had just finished, I think, his run, and I thought, I wonder if they're going to redesign that as Daniel Craig's DB5 and re-release it. That's where I thought, and it didn't happen. And then here we are a couple of years later, and obviously we heard that Agora were lucky enough to get the licenses for the James Bond cars.
Yeah.
If they can put the detail in, then that looks absolutely amazing. It really does.
Well, the little tease that they did on Christmas Eve, because they did a tease of the whole James. I lost myself when I saw that. There was a reaction video for that because I never in a million years expected the James Bond 1.8 vehicles to be coming out. No. But they did have like a DB5 with the front chain gun going around, and I thought, ooh.
Yes, absolutely.
But always a soft spot for me for the Lotus, though, definitely.
Yeah, of all the cars, it's just that it's the body. I mean, I've built the Lotus loads of times as a kit, lots and lots of times. Just the body shape, and it just looks fantastic. So, I think if they're packing the detail, that's an absolute must for most people. What else is on the list? Well, that's a very good question because Bond and cars. Yeah. There's a lot out there which they could pick. There really is.
There is. I think the Vantage is one of them, definitely.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, of all the cars, if I had won the lottery, I'd probably buy something like that.
Yeah,
that's the one I'd buy.
Or the Invisible Vanquish. What do you reckon?
Yeah, the Vanquish. I love the Vanquish. I know it's probably not the best one to get.
Yeah,
but it just looks amazing. Just absolutely amazing. But yeah, what else is coming? Of course, is very, very interesting. So it is a rich pot to sort of delve into. So everyone out there is listening to this. If you're a James Bond fan, prepared to spend lots of money on these part work builds because there is potentially quite a lot in the works, I believe. Well, before moving on, I'd like to talk to you all about a company that we've been working with, Agora Models, the home of big scale modelling. Agora Models has transformed the world of scale modelling since they launched, largely due to the company promise. The Agora promise is designed to re-establish trust that once a new model has been launched, it will not stop production until every part of the kit has been produced. The Agora Advantage Club rewards customers, giving members early access to new models, but importantly, ensures the customer care experience is world class. Whether you want to build a museum quality car, iconic vehicle, or love sci-fi and fantasy, there is a model in the Agora range ready for you. With exciting new models coming this year, including the first of the James Bond collection, if you have always wanted to build a model, Agora Models invites you to join a massive community of fellow scale modelers. Visit agoramodels.com to discover their ever-changing range of museum quality models. Now, It's time for our guest, which we have on this episode. I think we mentioned it in our sort of outro on the last episode that we're speaking to none other than the modding supremo, Mike Lane. Well, welcome, Mike.
Hi.
Hello,
Thanks
Mike.
for
Welcome to
inviting
the
me.
podcast.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Well, thanks for joining us, Mike. As I said, this is a sort of our second episode, and we wanted to get a guest on sort of as soon as possible. And you were kind of top of our list, really, to be honest. We really wanted to get you on.
Wow, I'm honoured.
Well, I think your name is synonymous. I think with the sort of big scale models, with partworking, and obviously the modding community. I'd say that you were maybe a sort of pioneer in that respect, and have continued to be so. I think it's something that everyone kind of wants to get involved with, but I will have a conversation about that, whether you mod or you don't mod. That's something that's an interesting one as well. Well, before we, I guess, get into a conversation proper. What I'd like to ask you about your background. I think we all know you from the website and obviously some of the blog posts which you've created. But I think we don't learn much about sort of Mike himself, your background, how you came to start the website. So maybe a pottage history would be a good way to kick this off.
Well, so I was a graphic designer for 15 plus years before this all started. And then back in 2016, 17, I think it was, the DeLorean launched, the Partwork, and I remember seeing the TV advert, and I thought, wow, that looks amazing, and I subscribed. And then I cancelled, and I subscribed again several times.
I think we all did that. Yeah,
trying to justify the cost, because it's one of those things. You see the $1.99 first issue, don't you? And then you start crunching the numbers, and you start thinking, "Oh God, no!" But eventually took the plunge and started sort of building the model, and it was a funny one for me because I didn't really envisage changing the model much at all at the time. I wanted to build it just standard stock. But then the more issues I built through, the more imperfections you'd see, and the more things that were annoying me at the time. And I thought, I've got to improve this. I've got to make some bits and pieces just for my own sanity.
So Mike, did you have any experience with model building in the past, or is this like your first delve into partworks?
That was the first partwork that I'd built. But I mean, I've been building models and things for years. I've always sort of been hands-on. I've always been making, but this was the first partwork for sure, and it just kind of felt different. And obviously the scale and the die cast metal and everything else, it was pretty impressive. And but being as expensive as it was, that's kind of why I was cautious about wanting to modify it in any way or touch it. Do you know what I mean? You just want to kind of keep it pristine. You don't want to touch it. But it was just one of those things that sort of issue 1, I saw the number plate. And obviously the first thing that jumped to my mind was it should really have the barcode number plate from Back to the Future 2. Sure, and so that was the first thing I made. And that was kind of just, so it started as a hobby, basically. I made that for my own model, had no intentions of it becoming a business venture or anything like that. It was just made a barcode number plate for my model, shared it on Facebook, and then obviously kind of the rest is history, really. There, people started requesting the number plates from me, so I thought, okay, I can make a few, no problem at all. And then a few became, 100, and and so on. And then there I found myself working from my garage.
So you make these in house then? You or you don't outsource your designs and anything like that?
No, it was all made in house, all made from my garage at the time, and then outgrew my garage, built a workshop in the garden, outgrew the workshop, and then moved to my new workshop, which is on my website, which most
Yeah.
people have probably seen. So it was kind of so I did that for a year on the side of a full-time job.
Yeah.
And you can imagine that became difficult then,
It's hard
because
to do. It's hard.
yeah, you're trying to juggle both sides. So after doing that for a year, I took this decision to go full time on this, and just Mike Lane Mods, as it is now, was officially formed in 2018. And it's kind of gone from strength to strength. So it all kind of started with the DeLorean build, and just making bits and pieces for my own model. And to be honest, that's where all of my mods start, really.
Yeah.
Even now, because I'm building these models just like everyone else. And yeah, you spot things, don't you? And I tend to, my mods tend to start by me just wanting to improve my own model, and then I'll make them available for other people. But yeah, that's how it kind of all started. So
do you find yourself building models that you wouldn't otherwise normally build, knowing that there'd be a market for other people?
what now? Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, back in the day with the DeLorean, obviously that was I was only building that model because I fancied that model. I love Back to the Future. But nowadays, I'm building more models that maybe I'm not quite as passionate about. But obviously, I know people are going to want bits and pieces. I mean, like the Routemaster bus, for instance.
Yeah.
I'm not terribly passionate about that model or that vehicle, but it's still an impressive piece of kit.
It is.
And but I mean, my sort of passion is still with the hero cars, really, and the movie cars. The Ecto One, the DeLorean, and all of these. Knight Rider, obviously. I've still got a huge passion for that. I mean, I'm an '80s kid at the end of the day, so I grew up with these. So there's always going to be models that I kind of jump into without thinking about. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of models that people ask me to make things for, which I'm still not too bothered about. I mean, the Terminator. I know you're building the Terminator. Yeah. We finished it now, I think, Wayne, haven't you?
Yeah, we have.
But that was one I was never really too bothered about that one, mostly because I wasn't sure where I'd put it.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, me too.
It's the bane of every model builder.
Yeah, it's like I'm not sure what the
I'm
not sure what the wife and kids are going to think if that's at the bottom of the stairs.
I have the same issue with with the Xenomorph. It's an interesting one, but I've got nowhere to put that. It would probably scare the cat. Never mind the wife. So I don't think the Terminator is going to be a flyer in this house. So part working then was kind of fortuitous for you. Then it kind of came along at just the right time. And of course, the market's now expanded massively. So it was kind of a timing issue. You kind of got into it just at the right time.
Yeah, it was. It was just came along at the right time. And like I say, with the DeLorean, it just felt different. I mean, I've built models for years, plastic kit models, and all sorts of different bits and pieces. But for me, the DeLorean stood out as just this is something different. This is something really exciting.
And do you think that's what's pushed the market? Because everyone who either did build models decades ago, I think Wayne and I both returned to the hobby after about sort of 30-year break. Do you think that's the case then? That there's certainly people that built good old Airfix kits back in the day, as one group. Another group that didn't have that experience at all, but still thought, I quite fancy building that. Can I build that? Is it going to be possible? Because I have no model making experience at all. Could I actually build the thing as I've seen it in the advertisement? So I think there's two groups of people interested there.
I think you can be a partwork modeler and still enjoy plastic kits and vice versa. But they are very different beasts, aren't they?
Yes,
I mean, I've bought a couple of the 1/8 scale Revell plastic kits recently, and it's a classic, isn't it? You see the finished product on the front of the box, and it looks amazing. And you open it up, and it is all plain plastic, and you think, oh god, there is a lot of work to do here, a lot of painting and gluing, which is obviously you don't have that issue with the part work models.
Yeah.
But you know, they're different challenges, aren't they?
I think it's a different proposition. Yes, it's a different proposition entirely. You're right, because I've been looking at sort of 1/12 scale F1 cars, for instance. That kind of kit, massive kits, huge numbers of parts, probably take 3 months to build the thing. That kind of thing. And they kind of have an allied or a connection with partworks and with large scale models. I mean, I've had conversations with plastic kit builders. It's like, oh no, that's not model making. Go away. It's just,
Yeah,
it's just that's not it's just
yeah,
not that's not model making. That's not what I guess the perceived view of what a model maker should be, i.e. a plastic kit. And I would absolutely disagree with that, because if you're building something, it's still, you are still a maker.
you are. I think, you know, there's different levels. With the plastic kits, you could argue you need a different level of I wouldn't say expertise, but you know, it takes a lot more work, doesn't it?
It's different skill sets, I
Yeah,
think, for different
that's what
things.
I'm getting at, really. But at the same time, the partwork models, even though they're designed to be easy to build, they're still not easy, are they? There's still a
No.
challenge. It's still a challenge.
Issue 91 of the DeLorean
Yeah,
just still haunts me.
exactly. Yeah,
It can be.
I don't think there's any shame in that. You know, I think there is a crossover. I think you can still have a decent amount of pride after finishing a partwork model, and you know, it is an achievement, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they are different. They are different things. But you know, I don't know. I mean, I build both, and I still probably enjoy partwork models more than plastic
Oh, really?
kits.
That's
I
interesting.
do,
Wow.
yeah. You get a different level of achievement, I think, from building a plastic kit. There's a lot more work involved, painting and so on. But you know, I find the partworks more enjoyable.
Now, I wanted to also ask you, we've already touched on it a little bit, that perennial question about costs and what these things actually cost us all. I think this stuff's been debated pretty much since since the dawn of time, when
Yeah,
we're talking about partworks, yeah.
yeah,
And I don't really understand the view, because you
right,
know what this thing's going to cost going into it.
yeah,
You can do the maths.
yeah,
So what's the issue with what it's going to cost you? Yeah, why is that an issue? Because surely you know that going in.
yeah,
I've had lots of conversations with people about that. Oh, I'd love to do that, but it's very, very expensive, etc. And it's one of those conversations, I guess, that is not going to go away. And these kits aren't going to go. They aren't going to get any cheaper, are they? They're probably going to get more expensive over time. I would imagine, because the way things are at the moment. So for you, when you're, I guess, building your mods, which of course also obviously costs extra
yeah,
than what the actual model it costs as well,
yeah,
is that kind of front of mind for you? Are you thinking, well,
It
I'd like
is.
to do this
Yeah,
modification, but when I've done the calculation, it's too expensive.
yeah.
No one will pay that kind of money to make that modification. So have you lots of stuff on your bench that really didn't see the light of day because the
100%.
economics don't work?
100%. There is only so much you can charge for a
Indeed.
modification at the end of the day. I mean, there's lots of things I've had planned in the past where, like you say, they've not seen.
I say, don't tell us, because we'll just cry if there's something that if there's something we really wanted. Just don't tell us.
Yeah, but you know, if you're building a £1,200 model, you know, you can't really be spending £400, £300 on an individual mod. It just doesn't work out, does it? There's lots of things like that. But however, I think you're right. I think if you've invested in this model so far, and you know it's going to cost you over £1,000. Sometimes I think, well, you know, you could argue you could build that partwork model without any modifications, and it would still be impressive. But if you've already invested over £1,000 on this build, adding a couple of modifications to just make it perfect isn't the end of the world. And if it makes an okay model fantastic, then it's worth it, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Do you get much feedback from the distribution companies like Hachette and Fan Home about the mods that you're doing?
I always it's something I always used to worry about actually back in the day,
Yeah, sure.
because I
Yeah,
used to think, well,
yeah,
how do these companies perceive me?
Yeah.
Do they think, well, who is this guy coming along, modifying our models however, I've never I try not to offend them, on my
Yeah.
website. I'm not there saying, oh, this is terrible. You need to buy this.
that's our job. That's our job to
Yeah,
to slag them off when we know something's
yeah.
rubbish. That's our job.
There's a
Yeah,
few things, that come as a surprise sometimes. You think, why have they done that? But
Like
at
the
the end of
flux
the day,
capacitor or
yeah.
yeah,
something.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Jeez. Yeah.
a few bits and pieces in the Night Rider, you kind of think you're scratching your head looking at it, think, I can't understand why they did that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I say, they're still fantastic models.
Hmm.
I still think you can build them without modifying them, and they'd still be
Yeah.
impressive. But yeah, I did used to worry about that. But no, I've got relationships with the publishers and Agora Models. They reach out to me.
Yeah.
Eagle Moss back in the day, before they went bust.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
a good
Yeah.
relationship with them, and actually, I think the way they would prefer to work with modders like myself, because they
Hmm.
see, well, actually, um, it can actually sometimes entice customers to build the model
Absolutely.
if there's
Yes,
Yeah.
if
indeed.
there's
Yeah. In fact, I was going to ask you that, Mike. I wondered how that relationship worked. Whether you
mm,
got these models in advance,
no, I wish
because
I did.
you put your
Yeah,
mods out
I wish
so
I did.
quickly.
No,
Sometimes I think, wow, you must have had that model on your bench for 6 months to get that
no, I don't.
modification
No,
ready
no.
But
so
saying that,
quickly.
didn't you have the Knight Rider model advanced? Because you had carpets
Well,
before I even got the stages for that.
yes, only because
Yeah.
that model was released in France before
Gotcha.
it hit us
Ah,
in the
Yeah.
UK. So I had
clever.
a
Yeah,
good friend in France who was shipping
Uh-huh.
the bits
gotcha.
to me, for well over a year. But no,
That's a
nor,
trade secret gone then, Mike. There you go.
but no, ordinarily, no, I don't have early access. Um,
Yeah.
Wow.
I do
I
find that with playing devil's advocate with these part work companies is that with licensing, I do know that they have to
mm,
get signed off on the model they're releasing.
yeah,
So if they were to have something unofficial on there, they can't really push it because it hasn't been signed off with. And that's
yeah,
pretty much why I think they're happy with the way you're doing it, like you just mentioned there.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But no, I'm building these models at the same time and pace that you guys are, and
Wow.
it's quite often the case where people believe that maybe I've got advanced uh,
Yeah, yeah,
the parts in advance, but no, I don't, and that can make it difficult sometimes when you're trying to help people out and produce parts and modifications. Because obviously, if I see an issue today, it could take me
Uh-huh.
3 months to design, develop, and produce
yeah.
a replacement
Indeed,
part.
indeed.
And then you're sat on that model for all that time, aren't you? Unable to build it.
I was going to say, do you get a lot of requests for modifications then?
I do.
Wow.
I mean, most of the inspiration for the mods that I produce, to be honest, come from myself just building the model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll spot things just like everyone else does, but I do get requests. Yeah, I get customers asking and begging and please, Mike, please tell me you're going to make something for this, and so that's always quite helpful.
Uh-huh.
I always say if it's something that I'm not already producing or
Yeah.
building, then I quite often give them that first modification for free if they've come up with that idea, and
Now,
so people like
Very
that. But
good.
now it may
Yeah.
be me. It may be me. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong here. But
yep,
with the Knight Rider build and the
yeah,
screens that you've done, that's your first sort of like go at electricals, isn't it?
it
Or
is.
Mm,
it is,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a big move this year.
Hmm.
yeah.
Obviously trying to move things forward, and explore new things. But yeah, that absolutely first electronic modification for sure.
Well,
Well,
I have it here ready to go. Because I've literally sat on all of Night Rider. I haven't built a thing. I have box
Yeah,
after box after box in my workshop,
yeah,
because I learned a lesson with a DeLorean. Figure out which mods you think are going to come along, and I thought, yeah, there's going to be some kind of dashboard. I know there is.
yeah,
Wait until you've got all the mods, then start your build.
Yeah.
Because I had a
it had to be done.
fitting the flux capacitor into the DeLorean, trying to get that thing to work
yeah,
was an absolute nightmare, because I'd finished it pretty much. So I think my advice is, if you are going to mod something, try and get the mods first, and then do it as you go.
Definitely, as Mike knows, I had to take the Knight Rider apart to put that mod in. But you know what? I'm so glad I did it, because it just makes such a difference.
I think you took one for the team there, Wayne.
Yeah.
Didn't you?
It was one of those things where I see it lying in front of me and screws everywhere, and you have that nagging thought saying, "Can I put this back together?"
I had a nightmare. I put everything back together. I thought, okay, here we go. Power's on. Switch it on. Is it going to work? And thank the Lord, it all worked. I was so happy that it all worked.
It doesn't always work that way, though, does it? I mean, no.
No. Well, in fact, that's something I want to ask you, Mike, because I think DeLorean is coming again. Is it often the case that things will shift and move? That the modifications, obviously, you built for the first version. Do you how are you concerned that the mods, say, would fit the next version? Do you spend some time checking that the fan helm hasn't changed apart, or something hasn't moved a millimeter?
Well, this is the problem. I mean, I'll never really know until I get the parts in hand. It's always a bit of a risk, but I try not to offer things unless I know for sure they're going to fit. I had the same issue with the Hot Toys DeLorean, because because the original DeLorean, Hot Toys DeLorean, came out probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 years ago now, and they've just re-released the Back to the Future 2 version with the hover mode. And I'd already previously made a ton of modifications for that first Hot Toys DeLorean, and I'm there thinking, I'm just hoping and praying they all fit this new DeLorean.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Mike, because one of our listeners, John Fairbrother, had actually emailed me to ask that question about the Hot Toys DeLorean, so you've just answered that.
They do fit, but I had to obviously purchase that model myself, get it in the workshop, test fit everything first before I would. But I mean, there's an element of guesswork there, but at the same time, you kind of think, well, they've already made all the molds for these parts for this big DeLorean. There's only so much they're going to change, So when it comes to, for instance, I made some carpet sets for the first Hot Toys DeLorean. At the time, I couldn't imagine they would possibly change all of the moldings for the inside of the DeLorean. That would be a massive, expensive task for them to do, so there's always that sort of hope that, well, they should fit. In terms of the DeLorean, I can't imagine they would change it much. They've already got all the tooling, the moldings. I'd be very surprised if it's any different to what we had from Eaglemoss.
I was going to say, the other thing is that with models coming back out again, and we are seeing that. Obviously, we know the events of what happened with Eaglemoss and how that hurt the community in as whole. But now seeing all those models coming back under a new guise, it's opening it up to a new generation of the community, if you like. So those models and the mods are always going to be sort of wanted, which is a good thing, rather than if it was just a one-off thing and you make a mod, once that whole flow curve has gone, you're left with a mod that no one wants anymore because no one's building it.
100%. I mean, again, back in the day when I first started doing this, I thought, well, there is a shelf life to these mods, because obviously once people have finished a model, they're not going to need them again, But back when Eaglemoss were still around, it always surprised me, because I mean, like yourself, Wayne, you finished the DeLorean how many years ago?
Oh, that was back when the millennium. That's when we first started, so it was a long, long time
ago. But people were still interested. People were still buying modifications for the DeLorean, so they were still subscribing years after a lot of people had finished. So I'm really pleased to see that the DeLoreans come back.
In fairness, when what you just said there, though, Mike, I think that a lot of people's resistance to buying partwork models is they never get to see a finished one. And when the Millennium Focus got finished and the DeLorean got finished, you notice that the curve of how many partworks become available after that became a hell of a lot more. And I'm wondering if that's it, that people actually see what you get for your money.
I think you're probably right. That's quite funny. I mean, most of my models. I mean, I have kind of man cave envy when I look at your models, Wayne, because most of my partwork models are unfinished because I keep pulling them apart all the time.
My wife would beg to differ because they're encroaching on her space now, apparently.
Yeah. But I almost need to subscribe twice, to be honest. I need one to work on and pull apart, and then one to actually just build and finish. But yeah, it all adds up though.
Well, what would you like to see yourself, Mike? If is there a partwork that you'd absolutely love to see in the marketplace?
Yeah, well, definitely.
Is there one or two?
Hands down, an 18 van.
Everyone's after the 18 van or an Airwolf. Airwolf and 18 van. It always comes up. Yeah.
General Lee would be another good one. But I just think you've got the Ecto one, you've got the Knight Rider, you've got Deloitte. It just needs the 18 van.
You can see you've definitely got a genre there. You can see you're definitely 80s there. I'm wondering what about the Automan blip as well?
Yeah.
Cursor, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Airwolf, that would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. Even Blue Thunder, actually.
Yeah,
I preferred Blue Thunder. That's controversial, but I preferred the Blue Thunder helicopter to Airwolf.
Yeah. But with the 18 vans here, I'm not aware of many big scale 18 vans out there.
No.
You can buy the Hot Wheels Elite versions, which are, I can't remember what scale they are now, but nothing anywhere near 1/8 scale, 1/6 scale. I think that would be awesome.
The other thing I wanted to sort of get into is, I guess, how the marketplace has changed as well. We talk, obviously we call these things partworks. It's clearly a trend, isn't it, towards, I guess, reducing the time frame. I think a lot of people go, oh, it's going to cost me $1,000. It's going to take 2 years to build this thing. Oh, that's a long time. Can we shorten that? And that's absolutely happening in the marketplace, isn't it? You can buy very short pack times now, a year, and even buy entire kits. The whole thing gets delivered to you in a huge crate, and off you go. I think that's an interesting change in the marketplace. How people want to embrace, I guess, what plastics kits are like, because it's in its entirety is there in the box. Can we do that for part working? And that's an interesting change, I think, and how people want to sort of buy these things.
Yeah. It's a funny one, really, isn't it? Because I mean, for me, the whole appeal of a partwork model is that you do build it over
a bit at a time,
2 or 3 years. I think that's the whole idea of it, really. But then I bought complete kits before from D'Agostini. I bought a complete Lamborghini. And I've still not built it. It's still.
I do find it overwhelming when you do get the whole kit.
Exactly. And I don't think it's as fun, to be honest. I think there's an appeal to obviously have everything there in one go. I get it, but having a few issues drip fed through the letterbox kind of every few weeks, there's something cool about that. And you don't know what's coming next either, do you? There's that excitement, and obviously you spread the cost over 2 to 3 years as well, which obviously with the complete kits, it's a lot of money up front, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I don't think it suits everyone.
Maybe the people that are buying complete kits, they are absolutely from a plastic model background. That's their experience. They want the whole thing, so I can sit down, build it start to finish, however long it's going to take. Literally do binge modeling, as I call it.
I agree. Yeah, I get it. And it was possibly sort of inevitable, wasn't it, with the whole, certainly in recent times with the Egomos situation, that maybe more and more complete kits are going to come out now.
Do you think that wobbled the market? Do you think everyone from us builders all the way through to other companies in the marketplace, do you think that was it a wake-up call that these things aren't a fantastic business model for some people? Was there some sort of issues with the marketplace, issues with logistics? Is it a very fragile business? I'm very interested because obviously you're immersed in the business. If it did it sort of sound a sort of warning bells that there might be something interesting happening in this marketplace? Let's see how this actually shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I first subscribed to my first partwork, which was the DeLorean, as we've already discussed, but I remember thinking the same even back then, which was what happens if this model never gets completed? What happens if this company goes bust. But you kind of try and reassure yourself, and you think, oh, that surely can't happen. And when it did actually happen, it kind of sent a bit of a shockwave through the community, didn't it? I know for me, I mean, when I found out, it was a big shock. That was a difficult few months, really, because I had to kind of review everything that I was doing, and it was shocking. I mean, people would. I was getting messages from customers saying, "I've just put down a whole load of money for this model, and they've just gone. You know, I've paid up front, and I've not received one issue." So I don't know if maybe that's got something to do with maybe why some of these companies are now offering more complete kits, maybe than
I
they used to.
think a lot of companies are now moving to this subscription-based model system, and that's the reason for that is obviously then it's order. They already know the orders before the things are produced, and I think it takes about 6 weeks time to actually get the order, to get it made, to get it shipped, to get it back, and I think that's more secure than the whole news agents route of doing it by just printing a load and hoping they'll sell. So
I certainly think people are maybe more twitchy now than they used to be, and understandably. But I don't know. You just got to hope and pray that never happens again.
Yeah, well, I'm on my 26th model, so so I think we're over that actually if we count some of the figurines that I've done as well. But the if that's a testament to things coming to completion, then you've got it there.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I've got a couple of things left on this one, Mike. I wanted to ask you about your process. You've said something. I want to improve. I want to do this thing to this model.
Yeah.
What's your process? How do you approach that? Because I've read often that these things are handmade. You'll source various materials. I'm particularly thinking of the mod for the bonnet mod for the DeLorean. I think that was real wood. It had plastic in there, lots of different materials. How do you actually approach this? Well, I'm going to make that part, but how do you make it? How do you physically go from that's the design to something in a bag that I can buy?
Yeah, I mean, it can be a bit of a logistical nightmare sometimes. I mean, certainly with my ecto kits, for instance, the resurrected ecto kits that I produce. I mean, there's so many parts in there, so many different materials, and the majority of it is all handmade and made by myself in the workshop. But there's lots of things to consider. Not everyone likes gluing things to their model, so sometimes I try where I can to try and make it so it's easy to install and reversible. That's a big consideration, but most of the time where it starts is if I spot something that I think maybe needs improvement. It can then sometimes spiral, because when you start looking at that, you start noticing other things.
Yeah,
it's
that's a rabbit hole you don't want to go down.
Yeah, exactly. But no, quite often you start looking at one thing, and then you start noticing another thing and another thing and another thing. And I mean, I've had that problem with the Knight Rider at the moment, where you go to make one improvement, and that one improvement then starts, becoming a massive mod in the end, and a massive project, and it can just take time. But it's not a straightforward process though.
I was just fascinated by some of the materials I see on the mods. I imagine you say, I'm going to build that part. Okay, fine. I can do the design, but then what material would it be made out of? So you try one material, it doesn't work. Try something else that works, or you could be 3 or 4 different attempts at the material before it actually gives you the finish you want, I imagine. Because I think because the perception can be, it's all just 3D printed in China, isn't it? And that's absolutely not the case.
No, it isn't. No, I mean, pretty much there's very little do I have made overseas. There's a couple little bits that I do because I just have to, but the majority of it I make myself by hand.
Which no one can believe that, because the amount of stuff you're putting through it's all. How can you must have a staff of 500 people making these things.
Well, do you know, for probably the first 4 years, I was literally on my own. Wow. It was just me.
Wow.
I had no help whatsoever.
It's unbelievable.
But for beginning of 2022, I did finally cave in and get some help. And I've now got 2 people working for me in the workshop, but that's only been possible because I've got sort of a bigger workshop now.
Yeah.
You know, I could never do that. I couldn't do that before because I was working from home, in the garden, pretty much, you know, in my shed. But now I've got a bigger workshop, I can actually get some help in, and but just, you know, just packing and getting post out and things like that helps me, because that becomes a full-time job.
Oh, tell me about it. Yeah, it just is. Everybody, every small business person goes through that 2 a.m. stuffing boxes thing. Yeah, everyone does that.
Absolutely. But certainly this year, a big thing has been the 3D printing, because I've never been a massive fan of 3D printing, to be honest. Because sort of in my eyes, it's never been good enough.
Yeah,
you can always see layer lines. You can always tell when something's been 3D printed.
Yeah.
But within the last even the last year or two, it's come along so much and so far, where you can look at these parts now, and you'd almost think it was injection molded.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I go to the big 3D print show. In fact, it's next month, oddly enough, in Birmingham TCT, and every year the innovation is just bonkers. It's also the speed, how fast it's moved forward. You know, 8K printers now, you can print in any kind of metallized material at all. As you say, you would never know that wasn't traditionally made in some cases.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's only really been this year for me that I've invested in the 3D printing side of things. Great for prototypes. Still not always great for actual finished parts, I think. But it depends where it is on the model. Like for instance, the mount that. Did you say you had my screens, David? I think you did, didn't you?
Yeah.
So the mount that holds the screens in, that's all 3D printed.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
It looks, but it almost looks injection molded, and it's hidden underneath the dash. It's really strong. It's a really sort of high quality ABS resin. Really, really strong. You know, it's not going to snap. So that's been a kind of a big move this year.
Interesting. Yeah. Anything else from you, Wayne, before we close?
No, I think you've answered everything, which is brilliant. It's been an insight of what you do, because as I said, I've known Mike since the World of Wayne channel started, and we haven't actually physically spoken. It's always been through email.
I know. I feel bad. I'll have to take a visit up to your workshop.
Oh, definitely. When I'm down your way soon, I'm down your way in August.
Oh, brilliant! Well, there we go.
My first time down in the southwest. It should be fun.
There you go.
Oh, we'll have to make a date there.
Definitely.
Super.
Yeah.
I think we've probably come to the end of this conversation, Mike. I'd just like to close, but I guess asking you about the future. How you feel your business is going to develop? What's coming? What do you think? Mike Lane's going to look like maybe in a few years' time? What's up your sleeve?
Well, I'm pretty excited, to be honest. I've got lots in the works. I've got plans to look at new models I've not even had time to look at yet. I mean, there's loads of models from publishers like Agora Models, and you've got some of the big Hot Toys 1/6 scale models as well. Really want to kind of get my teeth into. There's so many models I want to work on. I mean, I've got probably 2-3 years worth of work ahead of me just on some of the models I've got at the workshop already. But no, it is exciting times. It's just I'm just currently just looking to expand out into some different areas, different models. A lot of people know me for the DeLorean and the Ecto one, but I mean, there's so many. Wayne knows so many more models than that. But I mean, I'd like to build a second kit, for instance, like as car.
Yeah.
So I really want to build a second kit, work on car. That's kind of one of my goals this year. But no, there's some exciting models coming out, which look great. I mean, you got the 1/6 Batmobile coming from Hot Toys. I'm not sure if you've really got into the hot toys side of things, Wayne?
I haven't, although I have seen them, and it's one of these things that you know that I'd love them all, but I live with a wife who doesn't want them all.
Yeah, they are big.
Yeah.
They are big.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm excited about. It's just some of the different models and different vehicles that are coming out. And obviously continuing to work on the Ecto 1 as well. So now that's been resurrected and revived by Fan Home, thankfully. I'm so happy for everyone that they're actually going to be able to finish their model finally. Definitely. That's great news, but I want to kind of turn my attention back to that as well. But yeah, so lots of plans.
Super. Okay, Mike, I think we'll probably leave it there. So, well, thanks again, Mike, for coming on to this, I guess, our first guest slot. I think that conversation's been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot.
It's
really,
been a pleasure.
really great to sort of get an insight into one of the leading sort of modding companies for our models. Hopefully, we can speak again soon.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, thank you for inviting me in. Yeah, brilliant.
So as I said, that's all from us for this episode. So it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from Wayne.
Take care, everyone. See you later. The Scale Model World Podcast.